Las Vegas, a place people go for a weekend or maybe a little longer on vacation. Many of them hope to get lucky and win some money, even though everyone knows the casinos always win in the end. Even people who win money at first often lose it back by letting it ride in the hopes of even higher winnings. But what if the vacation lasted over 2 years, you won a fortune, and then kept going? This is the story of Archie Karas, the ultimate gambler. Archie Karas was born in Greece in 1950. His family was poor, and he sometimes shot marbles for money so he could buy food. Archie's father was a home builder, and Archie would sometimes work with him. On one of these occasions, the two got into an argument. Archie's father got so angry he threw a shovel at him, almost hitting him in the head. Following this incident, Archie ran away from home and never saw his father again. He was 15 years old. He spent the next 2 years working on ships and freighters before arriving in Portland, Oregon. From there, he moved to Los Angeles. Even though Archie didn't speak English at first, he was able to get a job as a waiter. Next to the restaurant he worked at, there was a bowling alley and pool hall. Karas found he had a talent for pool and was soon hustling the locals. He also won money in the backroom poker games there. At one point, he even cleaned out his boss. Looking back on this time, Karas said, "I knew at 18 that I'd never have to work again." He left his job to make a living in LA's card rooms and pool halls. Over the next 2 decades, he lived the life of a gambler, winning big and going bust. He described these swings in an interview, saying, "I've been a millionaire over 50 times and dead broke more than I can count, probably 1,000 times in my life." It was at the end of 1992, after losing $2 million playing poker in LA, that Karas was in one of his dead broke periods. His solution to this problem was to drive to Las Vegas with $50 in his pocket. Arriving in Vegas, he went to the Mirage Casino, where he met a fellow gambler who knew of Karas' skill at poker. He convinced the gambler to loan him $10,000 to play in a 200-400 Raz game. For those who are unfamiliar with Raz, it's a poker variant where the best low hand wins. 200-400 refers to the limit, meaning that each hand, the player in the small blind position must pay $200, while the big blind must pay $400. This means that the minimum bet to play any hand is $400, although players will typically have to risk even more, as there are multiple rounds of betting. Thanks to Karas' skill and utter fearlessness, he tripled his money in a few hours. He promptly paid back his loan, plus half of his profits to his backer. Left with a decent starting bankroll, Archie Karas embarked on a gambling spree so epic it is known simply as the Run. After his winning poker session, Archie decided to switch it up and hit the pool tables. Here he played a series of high-stakes matches against a wealthy executive that Archie would later refer to simply as Mr. X, out of respect for his opponent's reputation. However, other sources have claimed that Mr. X was the famous poker player and casino executive Bobby Baldwin. In any case, Archie finished their session up somewhere between $1 million and $2 million. Mr. X then suggested they play poker. A week later, Karas was up another $1 million. After this, Archie issued an open challenge to play heads-up poker. This challenge was accepted by the legendary poker player Chip Reese, who is generally acknowledged as one of the greatest of all time. As if this wasn't daunting enough, Chip even had a wealthy backer, meaning that he could sustain any short-term swings and continue playing. Over 2 weeks, Karas and Reese played 7-card stud and Raz at limits ranging from $3,000 $6,000 to $8,000 $16,000. At the end, Archie walked away $2 million richer. Unable to find anyone else who wanted to play him heads up for insane stakes, Karas decided to go full degen and hit the craps tables. The amount of money he won or lost during this part of the run is unclear, but he played in sessions where he bet at least $100,000 per roll. At one point, he literally had all of Binion Casino's $5,000 chips. Karas eventually found more poker players willing to face him, including Stu Unger, Doyle Brunson, and Johnny Chan. Again, playing against many world-class players, Karas was successful, winning $7 million over a series of many heads-up sessions. 6 months into the run, he was up $17 million. It's pretty insane to imagine turning a $10,000 loan into $17 million in 6 months. At this point, you might step back, take a breather, and do, well, basically whatever you want. With $17 million, you could travel the world, buy a house, or start a business. Archie chose to keep gambling. Over the next 2 years, he kept winning. By the time it was all said and done, Archie Karas had over $40 million. The only problem is it wasn't exactly done. In just 48 hours, Karas lost $11 million in craps, followed by another $17 million in baccarat. He went on to lose the rest of his winnings over a short period of time. Even after this jaw-dropping loss, Karas continued living the life of a gambler, and even cashed in some World Series of Poker events over the years. Ironically though, he was caught marking cards in blackjack in 2014 and placed on Nevada's list of excluded persons, also known as the Black Book. This means he is now legally barred from entering any Nevada casino.